Hey, hey, hey! Fozzy here from Fozzy's Coil Co. Bringing you another build tutorial. And tonight we are going to build we'll call it a simple alien, a beginner's alien, a triple core. I'm going to use 27 gauge for the cores, and I'm going to use 36 gauge for the fusing. And that's a pretty standard alien, depending on the kind of wire you use. I use nichrome 80 for the fusing, and I sometimes use stainless steel 316L for the cores. Sometimes I use nichrome 80 for the cores as well. On a 5-wrap 3mm alien, I get about a 0.12, 0.13 when I do stainless steel cores. When I do nichrome cores, I get about a 0.14, sometimes a 0.15. And as with most coils, and for some reason it seems like aliens do it a lot, when I wrap it on a 3mm, it springs back a good bit, even with stainless steel cores, and you actually wind up, it's more like a 3.5mm. So when I'm putting it in the RDA, I generally will use the 3.5mm dowel, and that way it just keeps them straighter, As a matter of fact, Coil Master just came out with these, I don't know if they just came out with them, but I just saw them. They're called ceramic sticks, and they're so you can put them in the coil and fire it, and keep it really nice and straight instead of having to fire it and then shove the rod in there. Giggity. But anywho, sorry guys, I might look a little out of it. My back and neck are just destroyed this week. So, and it's like only Monday. What do you know? Yeah, it's Monday. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just hurting all over. But it's been a while since I put up any kind of a video on YouTube, so I just wanted to do that. As with most of my coil tutorials, I've done the prep work ahead of time. Doing something like an alien build is not an easy build by any means. It's definitely not for beginners, even though I will call this a beginner alien, because triple core and being 27 gauge, that's a fairly large piece of wire. It makes it easier than, say, if you were going to try and do 30 gauge with 40 gauge fusing or something like that. We'll do some later tutorials where I do 4 and 5 core aliens, and I will use probably 38 gauge to fuse those. But for the 27s and 26 gauges, 36 gauge is the preferred fusing wire, and it's what you see the most of. I think it vapes the best. Sometimes I use 38. That's more for looks. But anywho, and it raises the ohms a little bit. So, also during this tutorial, or after I make the alien, I am going to put it in the PulseX RDA by Vandy Vape, and I will give that a quick review. I realize it's not a new piece of gear by any means, but I'm a little behind the times, and tonight's build session will be fueled by the Cloud Chemist Chemical X. Every flavor this guy makes is freaking amazing. I'm begging him to send me some so I can put up a YouTube promo for his juice. I'll call it a review, but it's really a promo, because everything he makes is excellent, and I'll have nothing but good things to say about it. So, that being said, hit me up, Cloud Chemist, Fozzy Bear, on Instagram. I'll put my little Instagram handle up, and I'll put all that info up for all you guys, as well as the wire I use, the mods, all that. So you can check them out and buy them for yourself. But anywho, let's drip a little Cloud Chemist Chemical X on some lovely, I believe these are Staggertons, made by the infamous John Jones, aka Nidar Coils. Let me tell you something. This man, he's a coil making genius. And he can do things that I sure can't do, like, say, stack 15 plies of ribbon and then, you know, frame it and stagger and fuse it. I'm just amazed by it. Me and ribbon wire just don't have a great relationship, but I think that's because of my fat arthritic fingers. So anyway, enough chat. Like I said, I've pre-straightened all the wire. Like, if you're about to attempt an alien build, you should already know how to straighten wire. You should know how to make a single core clapton. When you make aliens, you for this triple core anyway, your decored wire, which is going to be the wire you fuse with, is 1/3 the final dimension. So if you're using 3 pieces of 27 gauge for cores, you're going to want to make a single core clapton with your 36 gauge. You're going to want to wrap it around 1 piece of 27 gauge, and you're going to want to do it lightly. You're not going to want to put a lot of pressure on it, because you're going to want to be able to decore it. And what that means is, you know, you actually, when you're finished claptoning it, you hold the end of the wire and you slide the clapton off. Then you have a nice long slinky like so. Yay! If you've claptoned it a little tight, before you take it off the drill, you can always flip the drill in the opposite direction. Hold the end of the clapton with pliers, not too tight, and give the drill a spin in the opposite direction for 3 or 4 seconds, and that will unspool it enough to where it'll slide right off smoothly. So those are the things you need to know. And the last thing you need to know before we get started is, whatever direction you're best at fusing things in, that's the direction you want to go when you're actually fusing your alien. But when you're claptoning it, you have to clapton it in the opposite direction. You can't do them both in the same direction. So, you know, if you're good at doing your wrapping clockwise, then do your single core clapton for your decoring. Do that counterclockwise, okay? And now what we're going to do is we are going to attach this lovely little slinky here to, you know, lots of people do it lots of different ways. Some people clamp it to a table and stretch it. I actually use one of the 3 leads that I put in the chuck slots. I actually just wrap it around that because that's where it's going to stay. So why bother clamping it to something and having to unclamp it? Clamp it. If you're old enough to know who the Clampets were, then you're older than me. Alright. And I don't know why, but I always cut it off as close to the thing as I can, just in case. Don't want to get in the way. Okay, and the last thing I'll do is I will bend it forward because we're going to stretch it that way. Okay? So I will, let's see here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause this and reposition it, and you can watch me stretch it. Okay, so the key to stretching it is practice. You'll get to where you can feel it when it gets just right. If you overstretch it, you're done. If you understretch it a little bit, when you're making your alien, you can actually like hold the fuse as it goes through your fingers. You can hold it a little tighter, and it will actually stretch out a little bit. And so you got a little bit of course correction there, but yeah, any overstretching, and that's it. It's done. So what I try to do to just make it as idiot-proof as I can. And, you know, with me, there's no such thing as idiot-proof, but I try. So what I do is I try to make my decors always the same length, and I try to stretch them to the same spot every time. I don't really like draw a line on the floor or anything, but that is a good idea. And some people, when after they do their stretching, they will put their decord wire in some PVC tubing. I have a very smooth painted concrete floor that I wash and sweep out before I ever put down any decord wire, so it won't pick up any butt hairs or anything along the way. Okay, this is killing my neck and back, so I'm going to stand up and stretch this. Here we go. Follow me toward the multicolored lights. Doot, 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 doot. We're stretching. Okay, so here we're about maybe 7 or 8 feet away. And I can see it's almost there. You basically want it to be a perfect spiral, you know. Again, this is something you will learn to feel. Let's see. Here I am talking about overstretching it, and I almost did. It's going to be close, but I think we're going to be all right. So, all right. One other tip about your decor. Generally, however long your cores are, like let's say you took 2 wraps off your spool for the cores, you'd want to take, say, 3 wraps off your spool for the piece of wire that you're going to do your single clapton on. Some people say you should do 4, like you should have double the amount of clapton as you want to have for your finished length. But I don't know, I find that 3 works out pretty good. Although this piece kind of looks a little short, we shall see. I was hoping to get 2 6-wrap coils out of this, but we may only get 2 5-wrap coils. We'll see. Alright, so I will be resetting the camera, and I'll see you guys back over there. Howdy, folks. I'm back. Looks like we're right in line there. Alright. Oh, real quick. If anybody owns a Geek Vape Aegis Legend, like, check out what mine started doing yesterday. Honestly, you know, I hear these things are so drop-proof, dust-proof, break-proof, blah, blah, blah. I've had it about 7 months. I've never, ever dropped it. The other day, for the very first time, I dropped it off my nightstand onto carpet, and this little tab here, this spring-loaded tab that opens the battery door, popped off, and I put that back on, and I realized the faceplate was coming off. So I pulled the faceplate off the rest of the way. I see they don't actually attach it with anything but basically like sticky back tape. The inside of it is waterproof, so like, you know, you can get juice in there and it won't affect the screen or anything. So I was going to buy a new faceplate, but I didn't bother. The buttons come off too as soon as you take the faceplate off. But so I put everything back together, and when I turned it on, I noticed that it was doing this lovely thing where it acts like it's being charged, even though it's not. So I did try plugging the USB cable in to charge it. I left it plugged in for like 4 hours. I didn't see it move any. I don't know if it even works. But it does this even when the mod's off. It just sits there and keeps doing this. So I've never been a fan of like firmware updates or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe that's what I need to do. If anybody has any suggestions, please hit me up on Instagram. You can direct message me. At this point in the video, I will put my Instagram handle up again, and if you got any info on that, please let me know. It also doesn't like to stay on. It turns itself off quite a bit. So yeah, it's got some hiccups. That Cloud Chemist Chemical X. Let's just get another shot of that beautiful bottle. Free plug for you there, buddy. I'm not asking you for anything. This stuff deserves to be talked about. It's fantastic. I hear he won Best Cereal at the NVE up there last weekend. Awesome. Congrats. And well deserved. So yeah, hopefully him and I can work something out, and I can get 3 or 4 of his top sellers, and I'll put up a nice review about them, because they sure deserve it. One more toke here, and we'll get to wrapping. We'll find out if I overstretched it. If I did, I'll get mad and cuss and throw the camera and have a fit, and you guys can watch that instead of my tutorial. Alright, as the smoke clears. So, remember, you stretched it and you bent your lead one way, so bend it back the other way, or your little D-core will fall right off. We don't want that. So it's bent the other way, and whenever you're making aliens or anything with more than 2 cores, it's always good to have some nylon pliers around, just in case things get a little out of whack. You can pinch them back into shape. With triple cores, you usually don't need them. But like with quads and 5 cores, yeah, you need them. So, alright, we begin. And as you notice, I am using Legos as my sliders. I have not committed to spending a bunch of money on those patinas, whatever they are, the alien makers, those little green 3D printed beads. Although they are cool. I just use Legos. They work great. The reason I have a Lego up front here is because I've got one lead in each chuck slot, so the very beginning of the 3 cores will be kind of like spread out in a triangle fashion. So I use the Lego to pinch it down, and that's that. So we don't basically use the first inch. I just wrap around here. Make sure you have put your drill on the opposite direction that you did your claptoning in, and make sure that your D-core is free of any snags or anything, so you got a nice smooth run. And here we go. Start slow, and you'll get your rhythm, you know. Another thing, like when you're doing a fused clapton, you'll probably hold it about right at a 90-degree angle. When you're doing an alien, you want to hold it more like this, like maybe a 97-degree angle or something like that. And if you want your spaces to be a little more staggered, you can hold it farther out that way. Tighter ones look better, you know, and they perform. I don't know. I like the tighter wrap better, but it's all up to you guys. I'm just showing you the basics here. Alright, so we're getting our dealio here. Let's see. Alright, so at that point we've got our groove going. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll go about an inch or so, and then I will stop and I will pinch it a little bit just to get those cores nice and straight, so that for the rest of the run it stays straight. So let's just do that now. It's funny, I thought I overstretched it. I've been so used to making 4 and 5 cores that I haven't done a triple core in a while, and I actually understretched it a little bit, so I'm having to hold the fuse really tight in my hands, in my hand as I go, and that's going to cause it to twist up a little bit more. If you stretch it perfectly, like you don't even need to do much untwisting at the end. Alright, so here we go. And when you start and stop, to prevent there being any noticeable spacing, that angle you were holding at about like this, bring it back in a couple degrees and real slowly just do like 1 or 2 wraps, and then you can come back to your original angle. And then no one will see that you started and stopped. And remember, going fast doesn't make you a good coil builder. Go slow. Learn this slow. I mean, I used to do this, like if I could have had a hand crank drill, I would have done it that way. Now I can go faster, you know, but again, going fast doesn't make you a good coil builder. And that only matters if you're making a bunch of them and selling a bunch of them. And I like to make a bunch of them, but unfortunately, I seem to have a hard time with the second part of that, which is selling a bunch of them. Getting ballsy, I'm speeding up a little bit here. That's usually when I screw up. I shouldn't do it, but I feel like you guys probably don't want to watch me for 15 minutes using this thing. In fact, when I have to stop to move this Lego, we'll probably cut the camera, and we will reconvene at the end of the run. You pretty much get the idea here. Just keep your angle consistent. You know, it's very noticeable when you have some wonky spacing, and that doesn't mean it's not going to perform fine, but if you're going for nice quality, just keep your angles nice and regular. Alright, so at that point I stop and I continue to hold this in the fingers that I got it in. I don't let it go. I keep the tension on it the same way I have it when I'm using it, so that way, like, I don't know, that's just how I do it. Okay, here, we'll go one more bit for you, so maybe you can see me screw up and get a bad spot. For the longest time, I never built aliens because I tried a long time ago and I failed at them miserably. And so I justified it by saying, they're nothing but a fancy fused clapton, so what's the point? And I was totally wrong. The spiral D-core pushes the middle core a little bit out of line, and it creates like a groove down the whole length of it, kind of like a little flavor ditch. That was weird. Something just went boing. I don't know what that was, but it doesn't seem to affect anything. Anyway, yeah, so the little ditch is awesome for flavor, and part of the art of wrapping the alien is to make sure the ditch is on the outside. That way the juice can kind of sit in it. If it's on the inside of the coil, it doesn't really do any good. And I don't know what it is about the fuse wire being spiral shaped that gives it more flavor. But if you put it up next to a 2736 tri-core fused clapton, there's like no competition. The alien has way more flavor. Like I say, I don't know why. I know some of it has to do with that little flavor ditch, but other than that, it's a magical mystery to me, man. Alright, we're almost done there. So I won't cut the camera, I'll just let it run out the whole way here. Ooh, wow. Woo! The end of my, that's funky. That's what that twang was. I'll probably only wind up getting... Oh, you guys probably can't even see what I'm doing anymore, can you? Should we move you a little bit? Yeah, I don't know. I hope that stays. Anyway. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the end there, because it was, the last bit of those cores looked kind of funky. Funky. And I should have clapped in a little bit more wire because I wouldn't make it to the end anyway. Oh, here I am at the end, so now I gotta move my fingers in. As you notice, I like holding it about a foot away. That works the best for me in terms of getting the fuse to go down smoothly. You should hold it wherever you're comfortable with it. At the end, I have to switch up and... Oh, look, I screwed up. There it is. So we're done. Alright, that was that. So we definitely won't be getting 2 5-wrap aliens out of this bit. Maybe I'll do 2.5mm wraps, and we'll see what we get. So I will come back to you guys shortly. See you in a few. Or for you, it'll be immediately. Alright, and we're back for the final segment where we wrap the coils. And oh my god, my back and my neck, my back. I won't say the rest of those lyrics. So yeah, I wound up with about I don't know, a not very long piece here. And I did need to straighten it out just a little bit. It was a little twisted. That was from me understretching my fuse. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking for the side that has the little groove in it. Okay, one side's going to have a little line down the center. The other side's going to be slightly concave. You want the side with the line down the center to be on the outside of the coil. So we'll go ahead and we'll try getting 2 5-wrap 3mm coils out of this. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be just long enough to do it. And I do have a Coil Master, one of those jigs, you know, but I tell you, I just cut my fingernails. That's what's making this a nightmare. But personally, I guess I learned how to build using just like regular old jewelry screwdrivers, and that's just what I prefer. I know a lot of people do use the Coil Master jig and they love it. I hate it for some reason. I can't get it to ever work right. It seems like it's too big and bulky, and I don't know. You have to leave so much lead hanging out to hold in that little lead holder thing that it just, to me, I don't know. The thing I do use it for is sometimes I will use it to straighten out my coils after I've built them. I'll use it when I'm dry firing, you know, to get everything in line. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. I just don't really see much of a use for it. So, alright. That's un. And boop. And then make sure you find your side with the groove on it again. You don't want to lose the groove. How Fozzy got his groove back. Somebody was thinking it while they were watching this. When I wrap aliens, I hold back a little bit as I go around so that I don't disturb the fusing. I don't want to, you know, like if you're up tight and pushing on it, sometimes you can stretch it out a little bit and it just looks a little wonky. Again, nothing that would affect the performance, but if you're going to try and like sell them or something, you know, everybody wants to buy the perfect looking coil, right? And there is that. So the last thing I do is I just make sure the ends of my leads are straight. And because I'm putting them on this PulseX, which has a 4-post configuration, but 2 holes are up top, 2 holes are on the bottom. So you build your coils for this thing like old Velocity style, 1 up, 1 down. And that's how that goes. So, alright, so this thing, I forgot, I'm on the rage here, so it doesn't reset, so I need to tell it there's no coil on there, and then we'll let it know there's a new coil on there. Oh, and my old coil was 0.09, and this one's 0.09, so that's why it didn't reset. Alright. Yeah, they usually start out at 0.09, and this will probably end out at 0.13 or 0.14. So, probably don't want to start firing at 110 watts. You know, to bring your colors out, 45 watts, 55 watts, something like that is good. Stainless steel, you know, you'll get a lot more of the rainbow. Nichrome, you're gonna get golds and purples, and then it's gonna go right to like bright blues, and then past that it'll just kind of start going gray. I love Lightning Vapes, which I will put their Instagram handle up there too. That is my one and only wire supplier. Something about their 36 gauge nichrome 80 makes the most beautiful blue I've ever seen. I don't know what it is about it. And their nichrome 90, which I don't use much of because it is very low ohming. The resistance per foot is very low. But it turns really nice, like seafoam greens. Now see, like this is a 3.5. I built them on a 3. But yeah, look, a 3.5 goes through with room to spare. They do stretch out a wee bit. This is where those nice ceramic sticks I was talking about from Coil Master, those would come in super handy. I don't know if anybody here has seen that show on Adult Swim called Tropical Cocktails, and they have basically their shtick is to like say stupid things and just say them over and over the whole episode, like "you damn Shetsky," and the police chief always says "stupid," and I don't know, I get it stuck in my head, and anytime I hear any word like super or anything like that, I hear "stupid" in my head. So if anybody's ever watched that show, and I bet like 3 people on Earth have watched it, it's filmed in the Dominican Republic. It's about tropical cops. And it is just completely ridiculous. It is almost as if they went out of their way to write the worst script ever, and they stick to it very well. It's one of those shows that's supposed to be like so bad it's good, you know, like the dog that's so ugly it's cute. I like the show personally. My wife can't stand it. Alright, so the last thing I do, I can see we're getting pretty close to all squared away there. So the last thing I'm going to do is just make sure everything's tight again. You know, usually stuff doesn't move around too much, but occasionally it will. So, you can see at this point we've got some nice blues and purples coming off there. They're looking good. And let's go ahead, we'll ramp it up to, let's say, 80 or 85 watts, and we'll see where we're at. We'll surely have some hot spots in there. Oh yeah, like the bottom has a nice hot spot in it. You can work hot spots out a number of ways. If you actually just keep pulsing it over and over, like, the hot spot will go away unless it's super, super bad. The ceramic tweezers, whenever I see a hot spot, I will pinch it like this, you know, right over the hot spot and heat it, and then that makes the hot spot go away usually. When you fuse them right and do them right, you know, aliens will have some hot spots, but they're not super bad. Now, like Mohawks and Stitched and things like that, you know, you get into some more having to tweak it with those, but your simple aliens, and I know I keep saying simple, and like, when you first try building them, you will say, they're anything but simple, dude. Fozzy lied to me. But once you get it, it's like anything else. Like that light bulb just turns on, and once you get it, you're like, oh yeah, this is easy, you know. And then you'll get overconfident and start spinning your drill fast, and you'll screw them up. What happened to me was, like, the first week I got it, I was just like on fire with them, and then for some reason I just started screwing up every last one. So what I did was I went to like building with different gauges. I decided, alright, I'm going to try the thinner gauges, the higher wire, you know, and I did that, and I got good at doing those, and then when I came back to building the 2736s, they were fine and dandy. Alright, so at that point we look like we're heating up pretty even. Oh yeah, you see that little bubbling there? That's another thing about this RDA that I don't care for. Juice, I mean, like, there's so many angles and, like, you know, little spots for juice to get caught. You can see it smoldering away there. Without giving it a bath every time before you put new coils in it, it's almost impossible not to have stuff like this happen. And, I mean, really, it doesn't really matter. It's just, a lot of times I do try to take nice photography of my coils when I'm done, if they come out good. And before I do that, I always give my RDAs an ultrasonic bath. And any coil I sell, I give 2 ultrasonic baths. One with distilled water and antibacterial solution, not like hand soap. It's like a cleaning solution, and it's safe. You know, it's non-toxic. And then the second ultrasonic bath I give with just distilled hot water. I get it about 170 degrees, so it's just under simmering, and I give it. And when I say one bath, I basically mean 2 cycles of 3 minutes each, so it gets 12 minutes in an ultrasonic bath. And then I package it with gloves on, so there's no fingerprints or oil. Yours are the first fingerprints to be on them. But anyway, there we have it. They're looking pretty good. So I'm going to load them up with cotton bacon, and we'll vape them. And yeah, so I'll be back in 1 second. Beep. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? There they are. Hi, little buddies. Okie dokes. So, we've got our cotton in there, and as you can see, I like to fluff up my cotton quite a bit before I wrap it around the coils or put them in the coils or whatever. I fluff it up quite a bit for a couple of reasons. You know, like actually less cotton is better than more cotton. The more dense it is, the less juice it can absorb. With less cotton, you'll actually get more hits before you have to re-drip or re-squonk or whatever. And the way I get them to fluff like that, I actually take my ceramic tweezers, I put it in the center, and then I kind of just open it out like a little flower, you know, and I do that. And then when I start to tuck it in here, let's see, I'll do it so you guys can see it too. I'll grab like the front half of it and pull it frontwards and kind of start tucking it under, and then I will go around to the back side, and then I'll do the other a bit like so. Obviously too little cotton is a bad thing, but too much cotton can be worse. I used to pack my my coils with cotton, and I learned that basically you just want to make sure that you don't see light through the top of the coil. You want to make sure there's enough cotton to hit all sides of the coil, but any more than that, and you know, you're wasting your cotton, and you're not going to get as good a vape. I didn't really used to think there was much of an art to putting cotton in, and I mean, I'm not going to call it an art form, but there definitely is a right and a wrong way to do it. And surely, just like anything else, there's probably a million different ways that people do it. This is the way I do it. Now, with a bottom feed squonker, generally what I would do is I would push the coils way down so they're like almost laying on the deck, because this is a top feed squonker. You know, you want the coils sitting up a little bit. I mean, you can still push them down, that's fine, but you don't need to. Yeah, so I always prime before I start squonking. That's up to you, you don't have to. Yeah, you know what, for the fact that we're reviewing this, let's watch how the faucets work and how they wet down the cotton. So, yes. I find that it is very easy to over squonk this and have it roll out the air holes. There are, let's see, there are 12 air holes, and the airflow control ring inside allows you to close them off one hole at a time, and then the other half of it allows you to close off either the bottom 3 or the top 3. So yeah, I mean, that actually, you know, pretty good coverage as far as getting the cotton wet on the first go around there. So, alright, let's see, where were we at? We were at 100 watts. Ah, but you know what? I've noticed something. I know these aren't still 0.09. So, oh yeah, whoops. Yeah, it also has these 2 little tabs which line up with these tabs in here so that your airflow is always going to be right where it needs to be. Kind of like the old Velocities. I'm sure there's been others that have done that too, but the Velocity was the last one I had that ever did anything like that. Maybe the Advocaat did, I'm not sure. Alright, so we came out to 0.12. So, right about there. I was thinking 0.13, but the stainless steel cores made it 0.12. So, Let's see. Again, I'm at 100 watts here. Now, like, you know, aliens can take a lot more wattage. But, like I say, I do think there's voltage loss, because that's not extremely impressive there. It's not bad. But if you had this on a single cell and it was 0.11 or 0.12, like, you'd barely be getting any vapor. And that'd be if you had a 2700, like, with a 30 amp battery, or a 35 amp battery, 21700 or whatever. The Pulse box says it'll take 21s or 20s, but it barely takes a 2700. And depending on what brand of 2700 you have, the battery door won't close all the way. So I can guarantee you with a 21700 it would not close, although I have heard some people say it works, but I don't know. Alright, let's see how she vapes. Oh, that freaking Chemical X, baby. If you guys learned one thing from this video, it was to go check out the Cloud Chemist and buy some of his juice, man. The Frosty Banana, the Silly Cereal, or Silly Science, or whatever. I think it's Silly Science. Chemical X. I mean, I can't think of one flavor I had from him that wasn't just amazing. Each was equally as amazing. And, they just have the perfect amount of sweetness. The inhale is great. Like, the exhale, the aftertaste, it's just perfect, you know? I can't say enough good about it, man. I make my own juice, and I mean, I am a big fan of my own juice, or I wouldn't make it. But, like, if there was one juice I had to be stuck on an island with, it would probably be Cloud Chemist brand instead of my own. Although I gotta say, I do make a really, really good version of Cotton Bacon's Neon. They have a flavor called Punched, which is a strawberry watermelon with a secret ingredient in it. And, you know, I can't tell you what the secret ingredient is, but I make a damn good one. And if you ever need juice, hit me up. DM me on Instagram. We can talk juice. We can definitely talk coils. We can talk custom-built series mods or parallel mods. Hit me up. I need to work. So, my final thoughts on the PulseX. I don't know. Maybe a 5.5 out of 10. Kind of the way the chamber is, it sort of spits in your mouth a lot. Like, if you take a big pull, it's almost like you're using a drinking straw. It squonks nicely. The squonking over the top is nice. It's a cool feature. Although I never had any problem with a bottom feeding RDA. So, you know, is it necessary? No. Now, I've not tried the Yellow Jacket yet. That's another top feeder. I'd like to try that one. That one looks a little more promising. I bought this because I had the original Pulse RDA, and I was just floored with how great that thing was. You know, gold-plated postless build deck, just fantastic. It seems like they've kind of taken a step backwards with this one, and I don't mean any harshness by that, Vandy Vape. You guys make a ton of good products, a ton of good products, and I'm not saying this is a bad RDA, but I don't think it's a winner. You know, it just doesn't quite do it. I think the biggest con for me is the amount of voltage loss that I see in comparison to other squonk RDAs. It's a phenomenal amount of loss. You know, that being said, like, if you're using it on something like a regulated squonk, a dual battery Rage that goes to 155 watts, Ohmboy OC and Desire Design, you guys freaking hit it out of the park with this thing. This thing I give a 10.5 out of 10. It's freaking indestructible for one thing. It's got like the fastest loading chip I've ever seen. The firing on it is so quick. It's a simple chip, like it just gets down to business. There's no fancy this, that's, or the others. It's a small screen, you know, one color, but it doesn't fuck up, and it does what it needs to do, and it hits like a train. And their squonk bottle with no straw, for me, ooh, there's a hair on it, that's disgusting. For me, the straw, the no straw thing, like that just put it over the top for me. I was like, yes. Because everybody that's got a squonk box and has to fuck around with the straw, ugh, you know. The silicone is perfect amount of resistance when you squeeze it. Yeah, let's do another shot of it squonking over the top there. It is cool. I mean, the squonk over the top is definitely a cool feature. Just don't over squonk it because you'll be drinking your juice, as is true with any RDA. Final thoughts. My aliens came out great. I love them. They taste wonderful. They produce tons of flavor and vapor. Yeah, like I say, I'm going to say 5.5 or 6 stars out of 10. 6 clouds out of 10. We'll give it a 6. How about that? Okay, nothing stunning. It's $24 and something cents. You know, if you want to get a top feeder RDA and you got 25 bucks, hey, get it, try it. I think the airflow, like if you open it up, the airflow is good. If you open it up all the way, let's do that. I had one hole closed, so now I got 12 holes open. Let's see. Yeah, it's really airy. You lose flavor, obviously. So I like to close it down 1.5 holes. I'm kind of weird that way. But airflow good. Top squonking good. Chamber a little funky the way it kind of spits a lot. And the voltage loss, that's the downfall for me. So there's my review of the Vandy Vape PulseX RDA and my freaking tri-core aliens. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. It's youtube.com/420 Fozzy Bear. I will put that in letters and numbers so you can see it. And I will put my Instagram handle. I will also put Lightning Vapes and Ohmboy OC, Desire Design, Vandy Vape, you know, all the stuff. Of course, the Cloud Chemist. And yeah, that's about that. So as always, guys, keep on vaping, keep on building, and keep the vape fam alive, you know. It's one of the greatest communities I've ever been a part of.